We got short-term rentals 101, how to get started. All right, let's get right into it really quick. All right, we are going to be learning why you should invest in short-term rentals. All right, it's not just simply that people want to stay just for a short time, but how many and where, and why is that a great opportunity as investors to capitalize on this opportunity. We're also going to be diving into the short-term business models, right? The short-term rental business models. Not every short-term rental is the same. There's a different strategy and a different perspective and a different philosophy behind the actions that short-term rental investors take. And so we're going to dive into that as well. And thirdly, we're going to be looking into the skills to acquire so that you can achieve success. Skills is the name of the game. I've heard it said, skills get the deals, skills get the money. And so we are going to equip you with what you need so that you can move further, faster in this short-term rental space. And in addition to this, I'm also going to be sharing details about a special offer about an upcoming in-person, that's right, in person, also virtual, but in person event that is happening on the first week of November. So definitely stick around so I can get you information about that. Now, enough about all of this, man. Let's get right to the meat and potatoes. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats and dogs, tonight we are blessed and privileged to be in the virtual presence of two amazing short-term rental investors who are going to be giving us the value tonight. I first want to talk about Allison Pazuk, who you see on the screen to the left. She has been investing in real estate since 2016. I got to tell you a little bit about her. She started investing in real estate and did it with the traditional plan of buying one property, save, and then buy the next. How many people have been wanting to do that? How many people have been doing that right now, right? She definitely started out that way. When she joined the council, she was an educator that was frustrated with her career, lacked confidence, and was living someone else's perception of a good life. So since council, Allison's mindset shift has allowed her to confidently, that's the key word here, confidently leave a successful teaching career and retire her husband from a job that caused him depression. How many know what that feel like, right? She is now creating her income and a future. She has wholesaled 2 properties, held 2 properties, flipped 6 properties with 2 more in progress. Those are probably sold by now. And besides scaling the flipping business, Allison has also become a market leader in this topic, the short-term rental strategy, and plans to scale nationally into the USA and Caribbean with her business partner, who you see in the middle, Keith Makse. Ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you about him. If you don't know him, you're about to know him tonight. All right. He has been invested in real estate since 2011 and has owned and operated multiple businesses, including 2 video game studios in his career. In his experience and in video games has allowed him to learn the value of OPM and raising over not 1, not 2, not 3 million, not 4, but over $5 million over his 2 businesses to create innovative Canadian cultural content. He is cultured, my family. All right. Since then, Keith has fully engaged in his real estate career with Blue Ocean Property Group, focused on a cloud-based marketing platform to help the travel industry. And so tonight, ladies and gentlemen, please put it in the comments. Put your virtual hands together. Please welcome to the virtual stage, Allison Pazuk and Keith Makse. If you're here, here we go. That the ball is now in your court. I'm going to leave it in your hands, and I'll see you on the other side.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Daniel, for that nice introduction. I just wanted to add to it and simply say that the piece that was missing from that is that I was actually 17 and was vacationing in the Cayman Islands, and I came home and said to my dad, "Dad, there's a piece of beachfront property that I think we can build the most amazing vacation rental on it." And Dad told me, "Don't be silly, just go back to school." So, it started way back then. So this literally is taking things full circle and being able to fulfill my teenage dream. How about you, Keith? Is there anything you wanted to add to yours?
Really, I think Daniel really covered it. Have a tech background, and I've worked in hospitality industry years ago. Feels like a lifetime ago. And with that, I find what we're talking about tonight, short-term rentals, really combines both the technology and hospitality together. And I just love what we do. So
perfect.
That's all I got to say.
Let's jump into it. Oh, hold on. Let's see if I can flip the screen. There we are. And let's just share with everyone why we're doing short-term rentals.
Yeah, so I think everybody asked that first question is what makes it different from a long-term rental? What makes it different as a strategy? How can I make that a successful thing? And one of the biggest benefits that you have with short-term rentals is you don't need to own the property in order to make money off of it. So normally we're so used to real estate investing where you have to buy the property, maybe you buy it from a wholesaler, maybe you're buying off the MLS, whatever it is, you're trying to find a deal out there, and it's a lot of capital to put in. So with Airbnb, you don't necessarily need that. The other part is that there's plenty of different strategies, just like real estate investing. You can have multiple ways of making money in Airbnb. You can even do it indirectly. There's, you can source items and information to pass along to Airbnb investors or Airbnb hosts. But even within hosting itself, there's a variety of different ways that you can actually go about hosting a property in order to start generating revenue almost immediately. And like I said before, like the actual capital may not be as much as buying a house. I know where we are right now in Kitchener-Waterloo, Ontario, to buy a house right now, you're going to need a 20% down payment unless if you can sneak a few other ways in. But the average investor will be 20% down, which will be around $100,000. In Airbnb, depending on the strategy, you can start for $0, and you can actually go out for maybe $10,000, $20,000 to start your very first place. So the actual capital required to get started on this business is much less than investing in normal real estate methods. And then the best part is, as soon as you click that button that makes you go live and you publish your listing and everything else is good to go, you can have a booking within 24 hours and you can get paid 24 hours after that booking actually arrives. So you see a very quick return on investment. You don't have to wait for all the flipping and all the, you're going to do all the presentation work that's going to be there, making sure everything is arranged and looks nice and it's clean. But then very quickly you're going to be able to start capitalizing on your investment there.
That was the piece that I know you had told me that before, but when that actually happened on one of our properties, we went live on a Thursday at about 4:00 and we had a booking for Friday and for the weekend. And it was just like, what? I can't believe it happens that fast. So that was just spectacular and an absolutely amazing point. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. I love how quickly it is because it's kind of like spinning a roulette wheel or the wheel of fortune, if you will. You're going to land on something and it's going to be good no matter what. And when is it going to happen? It's very exciting at that stage. And the last thing I wanted to mention actually about it being an active business, it's really important to know that there is a major difference between long-term rentals, short-term rentals, in the fact that this is a hands-on business. It is very much in your face all the time. Actually, right before the call, I was dealing with somebody who has an issue with bed and trying to resolve an issue quickly before I'm here talking. And so, these things happen. And when it comes down to it, the guest has to feel that they're listened to, that there's somebody who's working on a problem, and that you're using those hospitality skills. And then again, it's not just about the guest. You need to make sure that the cleaners are there in between guests, making sure that you have this 5-star working property. It has to go through a deep clean almost every single, what we call a turnover, or every single change in guests. And it becomes very active, like I said, very much a hands-on approach to a business. So it's not like in long-term investing where I can sit back and just collect those checks once a month, right? Those checks, when they come in, they're great because, oh yeah, I worked so hard to get that place up and running. No, you're reminded. And the better part is you get paid every single time the guest comes in. So you're not waiting, you're actually paid sometimes even up front, depending on certain systems that we can talk about. But there are ways to actually make sure that that happens. Anyway, it is a very active business. It's something that you have to be prepared for. Obviously, there's lots of pros and cons to it being active, but it depends on what you're looking for.
Right, and I think let's dive into that a little bit. So I just wanted to talk on this, and you kind of mentioned it on the last screen, but really and truly in real estate, we all know as real estate investors that we have different strategies that we implement. So when you're looking at traditional real estate investing, you look at the property and you say, okay, am I going to wholesale it? Am I going to wholetail it? Am I going to flip it? Am I going to keep it and burr it? And there's so many different options. In short-term rentals, there is 3 main strategies that people like to use. The first one is an actual owner-operator. So that's when someone buys a property, they do the 20% down or private money or that type of thing. So then they buy the property, and then what they have to do is they decide they want to go into short-term rentals. So then they furnish it. They obviously pay utilities all the way along. They create the internet. Well, they don't create the internet. They rent the internet, let's be honest. And then they have to market the property. They deal with the guests and the communications and the hospitality and the cleaners. So that's one strategy. The more familiar strategy for real estate investors in short-term rentals is what's called the arbitrage. So the arbitrage is when, as an investor, you've decided that you want to do some short-term rentals, but maybe you don't have the money to buy. So you reach out to a landlord who's looking for a long-term tenant. And you say, hey, Mr. Landlord, I'm going to be your most favorite tenant ever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rent the property from you. I'm going to be paying you monthly, the rent that you're looking for. But I'm going to market your property on Airbnb. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to furnish it. I'm going to get the internet. I am going to market the property, talk to the guests, clean it myself or deal with cleaners. And what will happen is that I will take all that income, but I'm still going to be able to pay you the rent that you're looking for. The nice thing is that with short-term rentals, what we're finding on average is that you're able to bring in between 2 and 3 times market rent, which is pretty amazing. So you are able to make that income without owning the property. Is a bit of money up front. You have to pay first and last month's rent. You're going to have to pay for furnishings and obviously things like the utilities and the internet to be able to set it up. Okay, so there is a little bit of expense there. So then what about this thing that Keith was just talking about? What are you talking about, Allison? Keith said you can get started for 0 money. That's when we get into co-hosting. So co-hosting, just like it says, is when you are a co-host for a particular property. So you've got the homeowner who decides they want to do short-term rentals, but they don't really want to do the active route. So this kind of falls into what you're more commonly understanding is a JV relationship. You've got an active partner and you've got a passive partner. Okay, so the passive partner is the homeowner. They just want to rake in the money, watch it going into their bank account. They don't want to deal with the guests, with the marketing, with the cleaners, with all of the other active stuff. So that's where co-hosting comes into play. Now, that being said, you do not have to pay rent because all you're doing is you're supporting that homeowner and that investor by marketing their property. The homeowner is the one furnishing it. The homeowner is the one who are paying the utilities. The homeowner is the one who's paying for the internet. All you're doing is being the physically active partner by talking with all the communications between all of the different people. So it's pretty spectacular when you look at it this way. And it's why I'm so excited to be able to mentor and help different people get started in this field, particularly when they don't have a lot of money to be able to put down. So let's jump over and see what kind of skills that are needed.
So, like I already said at the beginning, I think one of the most important skills that you can have, I would rate this higher than anything else, is hospitality. With running a short-term rental, it really is all about that 5-star review. So when we have cleaners going through, we're making sure that I am making sure my cleaners are nitpicky. I don't want to see any hair, whether it's in the bathtub or on the bed, because one little strand of hair can just turn somebody right off. So there's little tricks that we use and to get that stuff off. But hospitality goes a lot further than just making sure it's clean. It's how we approach the guest. It's how we talk to the guest. It's how we service and provide service for the guests all the time. So, we try to provide these concierge level services. Hey, is there anything that you need? I noticed that your family, for instance, I recently had a family that came in from Chicago. I see you're coming in from Chicago. Is there anything that you guys need right now? They're like, no, I think we're okay. Okay, no worries. Well, I happened to be out and I saw this cute little $5 bottle of maple syrup, and I'm thinking, okay, they're from Canada. They went to university here. They're dropping their kids off here. I'm going to give them this little bottle of maple syrup to give them a little piece of Canada again. They were really appreciative of that. And it's little things that can go a long way. I always look to find ways to surprise and delight my guests. And it's when we say, we want to make sure that we're going above and beyond when we're trying to please our guests. We're not trying to bend over backwards, but we're trying to figure out what those guests actually need prior to them arriving. So, for instance, I've hosted plenty of people who have traveled internationally. In one particular case, I had somebody from Dubai. He was really appreciative, even mentioned it. I forget if it was in the public review and Airbnb. You can do private reviews as well. Either way, he really thanked me for the fact that I had multi-pronged charge cables. Not something that really cost me a lot. I've been thinking those things would have walked, grew legs and walked away a long time ago. But people leave them because they know that, well, I didn't need to pack my charge cable. Maybe I forgot one. And I supply it, with all the USB devices that you're going to need, or even Apple devices. So it's just one of those simple things that gets put into a unit that allows people to feel that comfort that somebody is thinking about them. I feel special when somebody has already answered my needs in that way. So I'm trying to do the same thing for them. And it's really about making sure that, do we have any questions? If we go into a space and let's say it's a little bit unique of a property, we'll want to answer those questions beforehand. Maybe there's a certain ladder or a set of stairs to get up to a second level loft area. Well, we should actually make sure the guests are informed. And we have to tell them multiple ways. We tell them online, we provide them with a guidebook when they arrive, we ask any questions that may lead into those certain areas where they might need some additional help, and we just and sometimes we'll just remind them, hey, by the way, the ladder for the second story loft is going to be in this area. So, we try to go above and beyond, make sure that any question is answered before it's even asked. And I think that is really where the hospitality really needs to succeed. And we do it with a smile on our face, and we're happy to service all their needs, because at the end of the day, we're making people's memories. We're making their dreams come true. Now, maybe they're visiting, maybe it's a vacation, maybe it's work, maybe it's a hospital stay. There's a lot of different reasons why people stay, but we need to make sure that all those people in all those situations have their needs taken care of.
Very true, and I know that you mentioned the charge cables, which is fantastic, because I've forgotten mine in the past, and so I would have been super grateful for that. The other thing with hospitality, I was just talking to another short-term rental person just before the call, and the one thing we were talking about is that hospitality is making sure you're available, making sure you're treating your guests as special, almost like they're royalty kind of thing, that you don't want to Okay, put it bluntly, you don't want to bend over if there's a bit of an issue, but you do want to be able to be available to them, to be able to guide them to the most amazing restaurant in the location of your property and what have you. So hospitality is super important. The other skill that you need to be able to have to be a successful short-term real estate investor is finance. And I know, coming from a math teacher, so many of you are going, oh man, but I suck at math. It's okay. You don't need to go and take any math courses. You don't need to take any accounting courses. You do need to be able to have some very basic skills. Something like knowing about accounts payable and accounts receivable. Don't worry, I got you here. All it means is paying bills and receiving money. That's it. Okay, the other piece that will be able to help you out here, and a huge hack, is get a bookkeeper who knows how to look after the books. You know, go and hire a bookkeeper who's from a bookkeeping service, and they'll be able to keep CRA from coming to get you. But seriously, all you're doing is that you have to make sure that you're able to keep track of the bills that you're paying to the vendors. You're able to keep track of the receipts that you're using for buying consumables. You have to have your bank account set up so that the Airbnb platform can deposit the money from the guests directly to you. The other piece that you do have to be able to do is, if you're co-hosting, you need to be able to provide the owners with their owner's statement once a month. So they need to know how much revenue was brought in on the property. How much commission are you charging? That needs to be shown. Any cleaning fees, that all needs to be shown. So they're all really important because I know I mentioned CRA before, but if you're in Canada, I believe it's the IRA in the States, but they kind of want their piece as well. Now Keith's laughing at me, so maybe it's not the IRA.
Yeah, it's the IRS. We don't want the Irish Republican Army after us, but not even we want the IRS.
Clearly, I don't have any properties in the States right now, so I'm not looking at, and I have an accountant and a bookkeeper who's able to deal with that. But seriously, CRA is, of course, going to be able to want their taxes to keep our country and cities as beautiful as they are. So you do need to be able to pay, or you have to be able to pay taxes like HST if you're in the Ontario area. If you're in Alberta, you just have GST. Quebec has about 15 taxes. So, you know, you've got to make sure that you're paying the appropriate taxes. But also, there's the municipalities sometimes will have regulations, and they'll require something like a hotel tax. So you've got to make sure that you have all the pieces in play when you're looking after your short-term rental.
Yeah, and just to add one little thing to that is always make sure that you're looking for those municipal laws on how to deal with short-term rentals. So they could have things such as a rental license that may be required, or they have restrictions and regulations on what type of properties you can actually perform short-term renting at. So, you know, finance, it takes a lot of this stuff into play, and it really, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that's really important to make sure, as Allison says, the CRA doesn't holler away. So, project management, this is also a very necessary skill. So I worked as a producer in the video game industry, project manager outside of the video game and film industry. But these skills are exactly what they are. You have a large project, you need to be able to handle so many different moving pieces of your overall project. So whether it's an arbitrage or co-host, even arbitrage has a little bit more need up front. You have all of your different items that you're going to have delivered to your brand new unit. You want it to look great. You need to assemble all this furniture. Maybe you buy a lot of stuff at IKEA, and it's like, you know, Lego for adults. And putting all that stuff together is great, but it takes time, it takes effort and energy. So are you doing it by yourself? If you want to do it as quickly as possible, do you have a team that you might be able to arrange with you to do that? That would be a fantastic way of cutting down on the time, because as you sign that on that dotted line for that rental agreement, as of day one, you're actually losing money. If you don't have that place up, running, listed, and out there, all of a sudden that means every day you're losing revenue in that very first period of time until you actually are listed, up, and running. So very important to make sure you're looking at that. How quickly can you get everything delivered? Sometimes, like they always say, time is money. Sometimes it's better to pay for shipping, pay for a faster service, just so you can get started that much earlier. And then that being said, you have so many other parts too that have to be delivered throughout. So not only do you use consumables, like we're obviously going to need to supply toilet paper, but what about coffee? What about breakfast? What about tea? What about cooking oil? There's all these different parts that actually go into a short-term rental that you may or may not wish to supply. I think toilet paper is by far the most basic item you can get there, and you want to invest in the good stuff, right? But there's so much more, and you have to do that always, constantly. So you're going to be relying on, say, your cleaning staff, if you're not going in there directly, to find out what you actually need to replace. Speaking of the cleaning staff, now you have them as a whole resource that you have to start managing. Your cleaners are going to be the most important part of your business. They are the backbone, because if they are not doing the correct job, if they're not getting that place into that 5-star quality place of cleanliness, I'll give you a hint. Airbnb rates, they have 6 different ratings, all for how many stars, 1 to 5. Cleanliness is by far the most important one. If you are low on that, it'll actually drag all of your numbers down. So having the cleaners there, doing their job, making sure that everything is in that sort of deep clean state where, you know, they're going to go in, you have laundry to do, people slept in the beds, used towels, used even the kitchen towels. All of this laundry has to be dealt with in some way. Then you have a whole house to clean, and you don't know what you're going to find in there. My cleaning staff has found toys, they found books, they've found an iPad, they've even found a MacBook recently. And all of those things now, as going back to hospitality, we have to deal with that. And as well, in terms of project management, how are we going to deal with it? Do we mail it back to them? Do we send it off? Do we ask them to come pick it up? Again, it's all going to be part of that process of figuring out how we're actually managing this unit.
Wait, then, I thought maybe that was going to be my Christmas present.
No, that's all right. I gave it back. I was the nice host, and I gave it back to them.
Oh, okay.
So other parts as well is going to be working around the guest schedule. What's really important is that you're going to have regular maintenance issues that still need to happen. Maybe you have a leaky pipe. Maybe you have a small issue in your house that in the property, maybe you own it, that you're going to have to deal with. Maybe it's a furnace filter that needs to be swapped out. Depending on the issue, you either need to handle it immediately or you want to defer it until a time that would be more appropriate, such as getting a contractor in between the guests' visits. So we usually have a guest who will be leaving at 11 o'clock in the morning or by 11, and then another guest arriving probably at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That means we only have a 5-hour window in order to get our contractors in, our cleaning staff in, get any new, replace any consumables that have actually been used at that point, get the laundry done, make the beds, all that wonderful stuff. And we only got 5 hours to do it. Believe it or not, depending on the size of the unit, it is a very tight timeline. So making sure you have a good system for that is very important.
That is very, very true, particularly if you have someone that says, oh, can I have an early check-in? So I'm sure that you've got backup plans and that type of thing. Well, I shouldn't say I'm sure you do. I know we do because I'm your partner. But anyway, going on to property maintenance. This is a skill, again, that you need to be able to be successful. You have to have a well-maintained property. Just as Keith was mentioning that the cleaners are super important, you have to make sure that you've got a property that is really nice to come and visit. I'm sure all of you have been to hotels or motels and you've driven up and you've walked in and you've gone, man, this is nothing like it was on the website. So you want to make sure that you're the exact opposite, that the place is doing nothing but surprising and making the people say, man, this is nothing like it was on the website. It's way better. It's far exceeding my expectations. So one thing I do want to point out that what we like to say is that we don't like to say that we have cleaners. We have presentation specialists. So we have, they're far more than cleaners. They're doing far more than cleaning. So that schedule that we were talking about, they're well aware of it, and they totally understand the reasons why we have to have our property looking at a 5-star level at all times. Spotless properties do tend to get more consistent ratings and bookings. And that is what we're looking for, because that's the ticket when you're advertising and marketing on Airbnb, to be able to get your property higher on the listing pages. You need to be able to have those consistent ratings and reviews, and that's how you get Superhost status. So on that, I'm just going to ask Daniel if he's been keeping track of the questions in the chat, and if there's any questions that we can answer for people.
Oh, absolutely. First of all, if y'all been loving this value, let them know in the chat that you've been enjoying this. So let's go ahead and knock some of these questions down. So Ian Chadwick says, how do you convince a property owner to enter into an arbitrage relationship?
That's an excellent question, Ian. So really, it helps to come in prepared. You don't want to just jump in, meet with the owner and say, hey, I want to put this up on Airbnb. Because 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, that's great, here's the door. Instead, what you're going to want to do is just make sure you're approaching it. You have whatever if you have any presentation tools, you have those tucked away, ready to go. And really, it's about presenting yourself as supplying corporate housing or executive rentals, in that you're going to be doing a re-rental strategy, and you're going to be doing it direct. You're going to be doing it maybe on Airbnb, maybe on these short-term rental platforms, but you're going to be getting those people in. And you're not going to want to jump out with that information right out of the gate. You're going to want to know maybe a little bit more and find out. It's a little bit of a give and take, because you really want to find out, hey, do they have more? Are they struggling to fill some vacancies? Now, I know here in Ontario, we don't have any problem with filling in vacancies. We have such a low vacancy rate, but maybe they had a bad tenant, and those tenants have left a bad taste in their mouth. Maybe they want to make sure that they have a higher class guest rather than those tenants again. So really, it depends on what their story is. So it's actually better for you to listen rather than to speak up front, and then just be prepared with that information. I know, I think we're working on a script right now that we're going to be giving out in the near future, but that it's definitely something that you'll need to learn how to do.
Absolutely. Now, Colin's got a question. Is it better to set up a company if you are collecting HST?
Not necessarily. I know that with HST, you can actually register as an individual, but as an individual, you're only going to be able to write off. I talk to your accountant. I'm not an accountant. I'll just say that. I don't know what you're going to be able to write off. Any of the expenses that you're going to have that will have HST applied to it. If you're accepting all that rent, the revenue plus the HST on it, you can offset that against the expenses that you have that would also have HST on there. But I don't think it really matters if you're an individual or a business. As a business, you take on extra costs, but there's also extra positives that go along with that too.
And I just want to throw into that as well, is that if you're looking at doing one property, I would probably say no. But if you were looking at potentially taking on more, if your plan is 4, 5, 6, 10, 20, 100, then yes, I think you would want to be able to do a business and a corporation.
Awesome. Love it. Well, Ian now got a question for you. Ian Chadwick, he says, are there any municipalities that restrict short-term rentals? And if so, what type of properties are you looking for?
Absolutely, there's several municipalities in Ontario that we're very familiar with. Toronto being one of them. Niagara Falls is another one. But there are ways around it, and Keith is very good, and I'm sure he's going to jump in and tell you some ways that we have, or maybe we won't tell you. We'll keep you in suspense for Daniel's next slide. But anyway, I'm going to pass it over to you, Keith.
Yeah, so when it comes down to it, you really have to look at the bylaws for every municipality. I know Brantford, Niagara Falls, Windsor is talking about it. So you really have to look around for each one, what their short-term rental bylaws are. There are some places that downright restricted. You are not allowed whatsoever. There's other places where it has to be owner-occupied. There's places like Toronto where, well, to do short-term rentals, which to them means under 30 days, you have to do 180 days and like owner-occupied normally, and 180 days on short-term rental is fine. Or you can do midterm stays and get people for more than 30 days. So there's all kinds of ways, as long as you're following what those bylaws are and working within those parameters that they set, you're golden. So just make sure you know what the law is beforehand, because I know I've talked to somebody who previously tried to put his cottage up on Airbnb, and he was slapped with a $10,000 fine the very next day as soon as it went live. So you really need to know what that information is in advance.
Yeah. And then also to continue answering that question where you were asking the kinds of properties that we look for, what we at Blue Ocean are looking for are actually luxury properties. We're looking for ones that we can charge quite a high nightly rate. And I think there was a question that came up about vacancy as well, which will tie into this, in that the vacancy rates depends on the location. Okay, so the vacancy rates, it depends on your location, it depends on the kind of property, it depends on what you're offering. But if you think about it, I mean, you can have people coming in every single night, but that means that you have cleaners that you have to pay every single night. So if you have people in for a longer stay, you have fewer turnovers, fewer cleaner expenses. So what we're focusing on are more of the luxury properties. Waterfront, I mean, Blue Ocean, kind of, we want to focus on water. We will look at others as well, but that kind of a property, we can charge more for it. It might mean that we are not fully occupied all the time, but that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to talk about occupancy for a second.
Yeah, for sure. Go for it.
I mean, occupancy is part of the game, right? You have your average daily rate, you have your occupancy rate, and you're trying to balance those two things out. If I go above 90% occupancy, that probably means I'm leaving a few dollars on the table. I may not be charging enough of a nightly rate. On the other hand, I could charge way too much, see very little occupancy. Is that going to be the benefit? There's sort of a sweet spot, I find, between 80 to 90% occupancy. If you can hit that, that's where I think you're charging just enough to provide the value, and the reviews and the previous comments I have on your place are actually in support of that. So it's something that over time I've been able to increase the prices and increase the occupancy. And right now I was just checking, in my personal unit that I started off with, I'm sitting at 90% occupancy right now, 90.4%. So I'm right at that cost. That means I could probably add another $5-10 onto my nightly rate.
No, I think you make a really good point there of understanding that there's got to be some sort of a balance, and you can't just go one way or the other, because there could be opportunities there left on the table should you not pursue it. That makes perfect sense. Now, when so I'm assuming you already answered this question, but when it comes to cleaning every day, do you do it every day like a hotel, or do you do it after each stay? Because you did mention, Allison, that there were expenses associated with the amount of times the cleaners come in. So maybe real quick, you want to just clarify that?
Yeah, sure. The cleaners, again, it depends. I say that often, don't I? If it's sort of a week stay or anything less than a week, the cleaners will come in at the end of the stay. If it's longer than that, we like to offer a cleaning in between, about halfway through, for a couple reasons. One, we can have that cleaner going in and checking on supplies, as well as checking on the condition of the place. And, it just helps them feel like it's more like a vacation. They can change the towels and things like that.
Yeah, and then as Allison said, we also have that the backup of they're looking for the things that they don't want us to see. Maybe there's stains on the sheets. Maybe there's cigarette butts lying around. And if they're, and we have a no smoking policy, that's in our house rules. If they're in violation of our house rules, we can cancel that stay. And, we have some way to deal with that through the Airbnb or other platforms that are out there. And if we do a direct booking, we have a lot more control over what we can do. So there's a lot of different ways that, the cleaners provide that support when you go in there, more than just cleaning. But it really, at the end of the day, it is a hospitality service. And I would love it if somebody came into my place just so I could clean, they can have it cleaned. Perfect, come on in.
And it really does go to enhancing that experience for the user when they're able to see all the different amenities and services that really come up with their stay. So that makes perfect sense. All right, let's continue with these questions here. Adina says, when co-hosting, do you work with property owners to furnish the property?
Yeah, we will. We'll give them some ideas. We're working on some packages right now so we can provide some easy, quick links. There actually is a service out there that can furnish rooms. Like if you want a living room, a bedroom, whatever, they can do that for you already. It's a little bit more pricey than doing it yourself. But there are a whole bunch of ways that we can actually provide that guidance. We already have checklists, and we're going to do that actually at the workshop. We're going to give everybody the checklist that we use, that we send to the owners, that here's everything you must have, even going right down to, you need coffee, you need sugar, you need tea, you need all those little items. And things that you would never think about. So we'll work with them to figure out exactly what they need. Ultimately, we kind of let them choose design in a co-hosted environment, usually because it's already furnished. And we just might go through and look for the things that they're missing.
Perfect. And so Ian's got another question here. Are you marketing to local guests or out of area, international? As far as your marketing, when it comes to the local guests, are you looking for your bookings?
I was just going to say, that's a really great question. We would prefer not, and we will double click if we have a local guest. Reason for that, if you're local, why are you booking an Airbnb? Unless you're looking to party. So you want to be careful with that. We do market outside of the area internationally, is sort of what we're finding is the best way to avoid the party situation.
Yeah, and the other way is if you're getting a request for a local booking and it's going to be for more than just a weekend, and there are ways that we prevent like one-night stays for a weekend. But if somebody is, say, wanting to stay for 3 weeks, okay, what's going on? I'll be happy to talk with them. They're more likely going through something like a renovation. Maybe their house is being fumigated. Maybe depending on the size of the property, maybe there's some life reason why they actually need that space for a period of time. So those do happen as well. We're not saying no to those locals, but if somebody wants to come in, and we've seen them where they want to come in for a Saturday night only, yeah, they don't want to have to clean up their own mess after the party, so we just say no to that.
Absolutely, no parties whatsoever. And so the next one I want to ask is, what is the risk of guests not leaving? Do they fall under the same rules as a long-term tenant, or is it a different scenario and situation?
Do you want to take that one, Allison?
Nope, you've got more experience with this one.
I do. So really, when it comes down to it, you're providing a license to stay, not a lease. Technically speaking, under the RTA, they are not covered under that. They are no different than a long-term guest at a hotel. However, because the police don't want to get involved in any contractual disputes, and because it is a little bit of a challenge, it's murky waters, and if the landlord-tenant board in Ontario can get it themselves involved, they'll be, operating in their fashion. However, one of the things that we are trying to do is make sure that we have a lot of systems in place. If we do have somebody who's not willing to leave the property, maybe they're having a party that somehow got past us, or they just don't want to leave. Well, we use a lot of security devices that will be in our favor. We have noise monitoring devices that are there to help us prevent parties, but they also have alarm features on that. We have electronic locks that we have control of at all times, and we can turn on and off that lock as necessary. We have a series of procedures that we have, policies on how to deal with that. If that was to be the case, in most cases, 9 times out of 10, I can't even say 9 times out of 10. Most of the time, hundreds of guests are just going to be just fine. And it's the ones that you need to be prepared for are the ones that will surprise you. If you have the right security and the right systems in place, there are ways to get them out, and they don't fall under the RTA. For those that don't know, the Residential Tenancy Act here in Ontario.
Residential Tenancy Act, absolutely. Okay, cool. And so right now, I really want you to let me know in the comments, how is this going? We will be answering the rest of these questions. Just want to get a pulse in the room as we're coming on time here. But I did want to hold up my end of the bargain. As I did mention, there is something really cool coming up next month I wanted to talk about. So just stick around for a bit as I kind of really talk about it. This event that we have on November 6th is all about buying your first short-term rental property with confidence. All right. We have learned a great deal about hospitality, finance, project management, property maintenance, and this is only touching the surface. So I'm really looking forward to this event because we'll be having a workshop specifically helping you buy your first short-term rental with more understanding of all of these topics. So here's what you can expect on November the 6th. All right. The systems, the procedures, the processes, all of this to run your own short-term rental business. You want to know how to talk to a landlord to use their unit for Airbnb? We got you covered. You want to know how to cover yourself with the right insurance so that you can sleep at night? We got you covered. You want to know what areas and what types of properties to buy? Everything from arbitrage to management and co-hosting, getting the super host status, scaling your units, right? Even if you don't have a ton of money, this is absolutely the event where you want to be, because once you learn, that is when you're in position to earn. So real quick, here's the deal. I got a podcast coming out this week, and one of the things that I talk about is the value of building a skill set. So please hear me real quick. If you don't have money, here is how you make it. You create a high income skill by becoming really good in a specific area, and you deploy that skill to make money. And in this instance, this is how you have that opportunity, because if you don't have the cash to buy a property, you can attend this workshop and get the skills to acquire units that you don't even have to own. So let me repeat myself. You can acquire the skills in this workshop so that you can acquire units that you do not have to own. And you can do that with this workshop. Now, real quick, Allison, Keith, what is your goals as instructors, as people who's going to be leading this? What are you hoping that people will take away from this event?
Well, I know what I want people to take away is like you said, the actual skills for all the tactical elements of what they're going to need to be able to start and launch their very first unit. There's so much behind it. I mean, it's hundreds of hours of education that I've had to absorb and bring in from different areas, as well as the actual doing. I may know theoretically how to say evict a party test, but I never had to learn until I actually did it. Fortunately, I only had one. With that, I want to make sure everybody walks away feeling more prepared with running their first Airbnb unit in whatever model that they choose.
And I'm just going to add to that and say that I am, again, super stoked to be able to help people get started in real estate with perhaps not enough money, to give them the tactical skills. And since this is on November the 6th, I would love for them to be able to have their first property on Airbnb by December the 1st and capitalize on that holiday season, which is where you make all the money. Well, not all of it, but an awful lot of it.
It really helps.
That's awesome. And so I just want to encourage you to click on the offer section and claim your ticket there. You absolutely will not regret it. It's going to be an amazing day. And don't be dismayed. If you are out of town or you are not in the Waterloo area, we absolutely will be having this online as well. So there will be an in-person component, but should you want to do this virtually, you absolutely can do so as well. We want to make sure we can accommodate as many people as possible, and it's going to be amazing. So definitely go and get your tickets. And as a matter of fact, it's the first three people who grab their ticket, I'm going to be giving them a massive discount just because they take action. And so definitely go ahead and grab that ticket while we take care of the rest of these questions here. We got a couple more questions before we wrap up. So, all right. So Colin is just thinking about insurance. Should you get more beyond what is provided by services such as Airbnb or other platforms?
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. So there's actually going to be three, I'll count them, three different insurances you're going to want to use. So first of all, you can actually, depending on the model that you're choosing. So in, for instance, if you're doing arbitrage, Airbnb, VRBO, and I think it's Booking.com is the third one. They all say that they have $1 million host guarantee insurance policy as part of their services. This is really only for the damages that a guest may create. Now, it doesn't do anything else. It's just if they stain some sheets, you can apply for sheets if you want. Personally, I think that's going to be the cost of doing business, but I'm not going to go after every nickel and dime. But if they break, say I have a balcony and they were goofing around, they broke the balcony, I need to bring in a contractor, it's a $500 bill, maybe more, I'm going to charge them for that, and I'm going to go through Airbnb. However, what it doesn't do, let's say there was a cooking fire and they accidentally lit the kitchen on fire. Well, I can get a good amount for that, but what it doesn't cover is that loss of income, because I'm going to have to close that listing down. I'm going to have to refund a few guests for their stays, and then I'm out that income. What am I going to do? I'm not making anything. And if I'm in an arbitrage model, I still have to pay rent. So having the insurance there to provide you with that, the loss of income would be great. And then there's also the property itself. So if you're an owner operator, you're obviously going to want to have your own property insurance. Make sure to speak to a mortgage broker. We're actually going to be talking about what types of insurances that we use and what's going to be. We'll even give away our mortgage broker who's done some magical stuff in terms of insurance. But the way I look at it is that you really want to cover your assets, whether it's your furniture, the property, your business, as well as the guests. You need to make sure you're covered on many fronts.
Golden nuggets going on tonight. Awesome. All right, we're going to take a couple more questions before we wrap up here. When it comes to the contracts, right? Do you use a standard contract with a property owner, or do you have to sign a standard lease?
That's going to depend on the whether you're doing an arbitrage model or a co-hosting model. The arbitrage, you will have to sign a regular rental lease, because that's a provincial, at least in Ontario, it's a provincial requirement. But you also want to be able to add on an addendum, which is a master lease, so that landlord understands that you are posting on Airbnb. If you're doing the co-hosting, you'll create your own contract, and you can be creative, but you want to create that contract with them so that you're explaining the commission that you are charging, you're explaining what their responsibilities are and your responsibilities are, and so on.
Fantastic. Now, you mentioned international marketing. What type of marketing do you do?
Well, I'll just start off that we are obviously looking at a bunch of, I'm being vague for a reason, a bunch of different online travel agencies beyond VRBO and Airbnb and Booking.com and Expedia and that type of thing. And in terms of the international market, there are some other ones similar that will focus in Europe and will focus in different areas. And each of them they do attract a particular type of guest to that booking site. So again, digging deep to find out who is booking on what type of site is super important in that sense. And also having your own website and being able to market and push that out internationally.
Love it. Love it. Golden keys right here. All right. I'm going to wrap this one up one more with Ian. Do you have a sliding formula for cost to operate and rates charged to ensure that you're profitable, or is it more of a fixed process that you have?
Well, that's, there's a different way that we actually look at that is, first of all, there's very similar to real estate investing. You're looking at comps. You're going to be looking at what are the people with the same number of beds, same number of bathrooms doing in your area. However, you're also looking for what the differences are. Maybe your place is bigger. Maybe it's brighter. Maybe it's smaller. Whatever it is. And you're trying to figure out what a good base price is going to be based from that. And then we use a tool that allows us to do dynamic pricing. So there's a lot of little nuances and tweaks that we also provide on top of that. But really, when it comes down to it, these tools are fantastic. They aggregate all kinds of data. They take a look at all the listings in Airbnb in your area, what the averages are. It can even set a base price for you, and then it will automatically fluctuate that price depending on seasonality, availability, how many people are booking that weekend. I've had friends who had a weekend where they normally were charging about $120, $130 a night, and then their pricing strategy went up to $800, and they didn't realize it, but share was going through their town, and all of a sudden everything was booked up. If they didn't have that dynamic pricing on, they would have gotten $130. They would have been happy until they found out all their friends were making $800. So you really want to make sure you have some tools there. And we're going to go into a lot of those tools in this workshop on November 6th. It's something that we want to make sure that people have sort of those legitimate tools that are out there that really do more than just analyzing properties. It's going to make sure that you're going to have those profitable arrangements with the short-term rental business.
Amazing. Amazing. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, I put up a poll. Let me know, how did you enjoy tonight? Was it amazing? Was it just okay? Or could it be better? Let me know in the poll. Come on, we got to know tonight. And look, man, there's over 34 people still on this call, and I got to show you love because we are over time. So I got to apologize. And the way that I'm going to apologize is that if you wish to be at this event, man, boy, do I got a gift for you. Just do me a solid favor. I'm going to put my email in the chat. Daniel at CashFlow Tribe. I put it there. And also email events at CashFlow Tribe. Email either of those emails. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure our team, my team's going to have to forgive me for this, but I'm going to send out a discount code just for those who take action because you've hung with us. We're past the time. And I want to make sure you guys get some awesome value. Daniel at cashflowtribe.com or events at cashflowtribe.com. Shoot us a message. We absolutely will get you hooked up with a discount because we love our people who hang out with us. All right. So before we end it here, Keith, Allison, any last words you wish to share with everybody today while I put on the screen how to connect with each other?
I just want to thank everyone so much for spending time with us, for sharing the love, and I am just super excited at the amount of people that came out to the webinar and just showing that short-term rentals is going to replace that whole wholesaling piece.
Oh, I can't agree with you more there. I also want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and spending an hour with us. Time is the most valuable, precious commodity that we have. So I really appreciate that you decided to spend your hour with us. I'm really looking forward to, for anybody who comes to November 6th, whether in person or virtual, we got some great stuff that we're going to share with everybody there. Some great tools, some checklists, some other lists that we have, things that's going to help you elevate your short-term rental game to the next level. And yeah, please also connect with us. Allison and I are very approachable. We want to help people. So if you do have any questions, you can always ask us. But, you know, we're going to cover everything that we possibly can in an afternoon there in November. So that would be the best way to kind of get the whole kit and caboodle.
I just want to say one more thing as well, because Keith and I always do that. We have to have the last word. But anyway, I just want to say that on top of the fact that we're going to be sharing an awful lot of tactical stuff to help you get started, it's the networking. Can you imagine being in the room with other people with a similar strategy and a similar focus, and not only the information you're going to pick up from Keith and I, but the information you pick up from each other when you're just chatting during the breaks.
There you go. Awesome. Fantastic. No, that's beautiful. Guys, feel free to reach out to Keith and Allison. Their information is down below. Both from, listen, they're doing big things at Blue Ocean Property Group. So feel free to contact them via email. You'll see them down below under Facebook or on Instagram. And Allison did mention it. Show some love. If you got any value out of it, be sure to take a picture, tag them, and post it so that we can continue to have this conversation. With that said, my name is Daniel Blakegrove, and this has been with Keith and Allison of Blue Ocean Property Group, Inc. and CashFlow Tribe. And until then, take care. Reach out if you have any questions. Definitely be sure to hit the offer or contact us on the emails down below, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.